All right, hey everybody, welcome to my channel and to this video. This is the first video in a series of videos that I'm going to be making about how to convert your shower insert, this fiberglass white shower insert here, and we're going to actually be tiling it instead, dropping tile all the way down to the floor. Now, I'm not going to be tiling the floor. Instead, I'm going to be buying a shower base. But the purpose of this video is to show you around to see kind of what I'm dealing with this particular project, and to see, you know, is this similar to your setup or not? And B, most importantly, what materials and what supplies am I going to need from start to finish, right? Now, obviously, the scope of your project will depend. The supplies that you need or might have lying around will depend on what you plan on doing. But this is what kind of my idea is, to give you a comprehensive shopping list, so to speak. And I'm going to put a list down below in the description for pretty much everything that I used on this project. Okay. So again, we're not going to be tiling the floor. We're going to be installing a shower pan instead, and I'll show you a picture of that right now. Now, I do not recommend going out and buying this until you actually remove and do the demo of your shower insert, because the dimensions here are going to depend on from, stud to stud. So the next video, I'm going to be demoing this and taking it out. We'll be doing a series of cuts and taking out the drain as well. So let's go and get started. What do you need first? I would say a ninja-like attitude. In other words, you really have to have the eye of the tiger here if you've never done this before. You've got to go in saying, this is something I understand and I can do it. So first things first, we've got our trim, our shower trim piece. You can see there to the left, and the shower head. Now, I really, really like this shower head. It's got a rain kind of drop there, and you just tie it into your shower arm. And I'll, again, put links down below with the instructions and whatnot. But we're going to get rid of this chrome thing as well, that ugly chrome. No offense to all you chrome lovers out there. And we're going to be installing a brushed nickel trim. All right, let me show you what else we've got. Obviously, the tile, you're going to need to buy yourself some tile. I'll show you that here in just a minute, but these are some various things. We've got some reciprocating saw blades that are thin tooth and jagged tooth to cut wood and metal or fiberglass. And I'll show you my reciprocating saw once we get down to the garage. We've got a new 2-inch brass drain. Now, you can buy a PVC or brass. I am partial to brass. I think they hold up longer, and when you're tugging and whatnot, the plastic, there's not any plastic that will crack. So I recommend a brass drain. Now, I've got a brushed nickel strainer for the top of that. That was a separate purchase. I've got a mask, a respirator here, highly recommended. Lots of cutting going on. You don't want to be breathing stuff in, so be safe, be clean. Do this the right way. What else do we have here? I'm going to be installing 24 by 12 inch tile. And I've got, obviously, some bull nose to go along the edges there. You may or may not prefer bullnose. That's quite expensive. And then I've got these little decorative tile pieces. I'm going to be doing a niche shelf, custom shelving, and this is going to serve as kind of the back of that. We're going to be cutting some PVC. So we need some primer and PVC glue. And it comes in a kit. You can buy them separately as well. They're like $5 at your hardware store. A level. And we'll need a longer level too. Some plumber's putty, which you may or may not need depending on the recommendations of your manufacturer for your shower pan. They might prefer 100% silicone. But we've got some drywall patch just in case we need to trim things up. Some tub and tile caulking, mostly for aesthetic, and you can get white or clear, whatever you want there. And hugely important, we've got this waterproofing membrane. You probably have heard of RedGuard. We've got a couple of gallons of this stuff. I'm not sure if I'm going to use all of it or not, but we'll see. This is a step that you don't want to skip, especially if you're doing a custom shelf. You could do a polyurethane, 4 to 6 mil polyurethane instead if you're just doing straight down and no shelving. But I'm doing shelving, so I'm going to RedGuard the heck out of this thing. We want it to be super well waterproofed. There's another look at that trim piece. Now, a note on the trim, you may or may not need to buy an additional valve depending on, for example, I've got a Moen Posi Temp valve. with a matching trim piece already installed. So I just bought a trim piece that went and installed to the PosiTemp valve on the other side of this. So a cost-saving tip there for you, try to stick with a trim piece that fits your existing valve. Now, depending on the age of your unit, you might want to just replace the whole darn thing. But we're going to be saving, about $80 to $100 and something because we don't have to buy a new valve, just the trim piece. And I will do a separate video on how to remove the trim piece. That handle can be kind of tricky, especially if your hex nut is stripped out from underneath there. So be sure to check out that video if you're interested. There is the trim piece. I really like this trim piece. It actually aesthetically goes with see that long bar as the handle? It kind of matches the shower head that we're going to be putting in there. Kind of this long bar aesthetic kind of theme, if you will. So I think that'll look really nice. One more jump back over to the actual shower head that we bought. This ties in, as I mentioned, to the existing arm. So it doesn't have a diverter, so you don't have to drill or call a plumber to run an additional line. That part right there will go directly into your shower arm that's existing. So that is really nice. The bottom piece just attaches to your tile. So let me pick it up here and show you kind of what that will look like. It's going to screw into, once I get that old shower head out of there, it's going to screw into that one. And I'll, again, do a separate video on how exactly to do that. So pay attention to that one. But we think this is going to look really nice. Here's the bottom piece, and it does have a handheld so that bar's going to kind of drop down like that. Oh, let me flip it the right way. And this piece, that piece right above my thumb, will actually slide down, and that holds the handheld part. So, and then you just attach that bottom piece. Like I said, you can drill in, or you can use a stick. Plenty of people have used like sticky, like a sticky back, super heavy duty tape kind of thing. So it won't go anywhere, in other words. All right, let me take you down and show you the mortar that I bought, and I recommend. This is a VersaBond, and because I'm installing tile that's the longest length of my tile is 15 inches or longer, so 24 inches, right? Remember I told you 12 by 24. I'm going to need this heavy, this large format tile mortar. You can buy the regular stuff, but I don't recommend it. And lots of people out there say if you're going to be installing a larger tile, you should go with this heavy duty mortar. So I highly recommend that stuff. So I've got 3 bags of that, and I also have a bag of regular, mostly for my custom shelving and the little tiles I'll be doing. I don't need the heavy duty stuff. There's no harm in using it, but I'm just going to switch it up, and it's nice to have an extra bag just on hand. And I'll also be using that regular stuff to set the shower pan in for a mortar bed. So that's the plan anyway. I also have a couple of bags of grout, 2 different colors here. I'm not sure which one I'm going to go with, but I also recommend this stuff. I've used it before, and you don't have to add an additive, and it also doesn't matter the width of your tile. So a lot of people say, oh, sanded for larger gaps and unsanded for smaller gaps. This stuff, you can go either way. So that's really nice. Now let's walk out here to the garage, and I'll show you some of the tools and stuff. I've got a whole bucket full of stuff here. So let's take a look. But first, don't forget you need a wet tile saw. Now this thing's been with me for years. I'm going to switch out the new blade, and you can spend anywhere from $20 to $60 on a new blade, or probably even more expensive. This is a $20 blade I got on Amazon, and I'll be reviewing it. Hopefully it holds up to the test. And this is the old tile saw. I think it was like 60 or 70 bucks years ago. So nothing special. I'm going to be doing mostly vertical or just kind of straight cuts. And then I might use a handheld tool I'll show you in a minute. We've got this fiber here. This is stuff that goes underneath the red guard over your cement backerboard. And I'll explain that in a later video. But this stuff here is fibering it's like a fabric, a waterproofing fabric, mostly for corners. So if you're going to do a custom niche shelf, you're going to want to get a roll of this so you can put that down and then put that red guard over it. We've got some grout sponges, pretty simple. We've got some grout sealer, pretty simple. Let's take a look. What else do we have in here? A float. That will be for the grout. a grout cleaner. Not essential, but something if you have grout that's kind of stuck on the tile, you need to kind of rub it off. Tape measure, critical, obviously. We've got this fiber tape stuff. We'll be sealing up the cement backerboard joints. So once we put up the backerboard on the wall vertically, there will be gaps in between where one piece connects with the other piece. So there'll be a little seam, and we'll need to seal that with that. Here we've got cement backerboard. I do recommend Hardibacker. I've used it a couple of times before. Obviously a name brand. You can get this at your local hardware store, big box store. And I'm doing the 1/2 inch size. So they're big 3x5 sheets, 1/2 inch thick, for vertical, since I'm doing a shower walls. Continuing our shopping list here, so to speak, we've got, what else? What other goodies? A trowel, because I'm putting down big tile. I'm going to use a 1/2 inch trowel. So it's got wider gaps to create wider ridges for your mortar. You can use a smaller one like this. In fact, have both on hand, perhaps, for smaller tiles, right? If you're doing 12 by 12 inch tile, for example, that quarter inch one will do just fine. We've got a drywall manual saw, although I won't be using this much because I have something else, and I'll show you in just a minute. We've got some deck screws, mostly to get the framing into place for the shelving, and if you have to put any backing up for the shower wall, if you're going to do a shower wall. Got some stainless steel screws. This is mostly for the shower pan, although your shower pan might have different recommendations on what type of screw to use to attach it to the studs. Don't pay attention to the label there. Those are just some plastic shims. And I'm probably not going to use these. These are left over from a previous job. But all right, we've got some Hardibacker screws. Highly recommended. Secure that Hardibacker, that cement backerboard, into the studs. Now, I will say I'm not a professional at all. I'm a do-it-yourself kind of regular guy. I've done a couple of tile jobs before in previous properties, but so take this with all this with a grain of salt. Do your research before you start. Be smart. We've got some wood shims. Those are pretty important, and then some spacers for your tiling. And I'm going to do about 1/8 of an inch. I think those are 1/8 inch spacers. So I got plenty of those. I mentioned do your research and be smart. There's going to be a lot of things. Knowledge is power, right? So there's going to be a lot of things that you're going to understand and a lot of things that you don't understand. The idea is to tackle and attack the things that you don't understand so that you can comprehend what the process is before you get started. Otherwise, you can spend a lot of money and mess in the errors that you make. Anyway, let's continue. We've got a utility saw, a drill, a brush for kind of cleaning the subfloor. Definitely a pry bar or a crowbar, a couple of flathead and Phillips screws or screwdrivers. Really, the longest level you can find. Oh, there's my reciprocating saw. I mentioned that earlier. We're going to be taking apart the fiberglass insert with that. So critical, I would say. We've got a large mixing bucket with a mixer. This mortar stuff that you're going to be mixing gets really heavy, so I definitely recommend this piece. It's like, I don't know, $6, $7, maybe less. We've got a carbide tip scorer as well for cutting cement backerboard. You're not supposed to drill into that stuff. It can create a lot of toxic fumes or just things that you don't want to be breathing in, and they recommend doing it manually. And you can Google or YouTube, how to cut backerboard, and you'll see me cut it too in a later video. But definitely get yourself one of these. You can spend $4 all the way to $20 on a nice one. This one's a cheap one, $4 or so. And I wasn't sure how much 2x4 I was going to need for the framing of the shelves, but I ended up getting 4 8-foot 2x4s for just the framing. We've got some sawhorses. We're going to get the shower pan up there, and any cuts that we're going to need to make, we can put anything up there on the sawhorses. We've got a brush. We'll be applying the RedGuard waterproofing membrane with that. You can use a roller if you have one as well, but that's pretty much it. There are a few other things that we're going to need, but besides what you just saw, I highly recommend a shop vac, keeping your work site not only clean, but keeping the air clean too. You're going to be doing a lot of cutting of wood and fiberglass, and you know, a mask will certainly help, but you're going to want to devise a way where you can keep that shop vac running, so it'll bring in and collect all that, all those particles and whatnot. Another highly recommended tool for this job is an oscillating multi-tool. This one is a corded DeWalt, and you're going to be cutting through drywall, and you do lots of cool things with this thing. Obviously, you'll need a hammer, and that'll do some of the nitty-gritty work for you. What else? Your subfloor, once you pull out your shower insert, will need to be sanded. So I recommend an orbital sander. Take care of some of those burrs and whatnot, get everything nice and flat. A circular saw is important. I am using this to cut open the floor a little bit more, particularly at a 45-degree angle, so I can access and rebuild the P-trap and plumbing to get that drain lined up just right. And because we have new PVC, we'll need some files to kind of get rid of some of the burrs, as well as some plumber's tape you saw there. Obviously, get yourself a good pair of pipe wrench, or a wrench, something to grip onto really well as you uninstall and then reinstall things. You'll need new PVC. You can typically just buy, if you're doing a replacement, you can just bring the old stuff into the hardware store and say, I need this, and then come out with brand new pieces. Get an extra tube of the 2-inch drain to extend for those pieces that you cut off, right? So you'll need, you know, those pieces as well. Obviously, call a plumber if you're not comfortable with this. This is a pretty tricky part of the job, I think, but definitely doable. I also recommend a Dremel tool to clean out some of that old tape that's inside, and just having that handy. You can cut PVC pipe with it as well if you have awkward positions. So highly recommended to have something like that. All right, I can't promise that all of these tools and supplies are what you're going to need. You might need more, you might need less, but hopefully it gives you a good start. Be sure to watch the subsequent videos. We're going to be demoing this shower next, and be sure to subscribe. Thanks.